Hello everyone and welcome to AJTV. I'm AJ Sacher. This is episode 2, finally. I apologize for the delay. I know this is supposed to be up weeks ago, but I had technical difficulties and then some more technical difficulties and then a couple other technical difficulties, but we're back and we have a sheet so you don't have to look at my messy bed. And I made sure that Hank was in front of the sheet. Good penguin. Um, yeah, today we're going to be talking about my favorite card ever, Brainstorm. Brainstorm's by far the best card in Legacy, and really just my favorite card. Um, I wrote an article about the card a while back. I don't know how long ago it was now, but it was called Pondering Brainstorm. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it, and it was fairly well received. And it just talked about how to play Brainstorm and how to approach the card. Yeah, just all about Brainstorm. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend you check it out. It's on starcitygames.com. I'll link it in the show notes or whatever. Um, but yeah, today we're going to be talking about Brainstorm. It's going to be pretty basic stuff, just because you need a foundation to build on, and it is unbelievable how bad everybody is at brainstorming. Um, yeah, so if you are interested in Legacy at all, or Vintage, or EDH, or whatever, any format where you cast Brainstorm, then today will be a good day for you. Uh, Now, I looked over a lot of videos, a lot of matches to find examples of bad brainstorms, sort of the don'ts, uh, the bad examples of brainstorms that are just poorly timed or just obviously suboptimal. So I kind of cheated on the good brainstorms, the positive examples, where I just kind of pulled a couple of matches of my own, and we're just gonna sit and watch me not cast Brainstorm for a while, because that's what that card's all about. So first, we're gonna go. Ooh, I had it for a second there. Gonna go to my match against Corey McDuffie. It's actually spelled with a K. I didn't notice that before, but this is from Star City Games Charlotte, which I ended up winning with my blue-red control deck. And Corey is playing, typical blue-white counterbalance top, Thopter Foundry sword with Stoneforge Mystics in it. He has my Lavamancer's needled, I have his top needled, so we're pretty much at a stalemate, but I'm hitting him for 2 a turn. Now I draw Brainstorm, my hand is Pyroblast, Force of Will, Brainstorm, and we are literally going to sit here for 2 minutes and watch me not cast the Brainstorm. There's a good shot of Corey. Adorable. Love that guy. He's like one of my favorite people. Actually, if you remember in episode 1 where my phone rang in the middle of the episode, that was actually Corey calling me. But yeah, I draw Jace and still just not playing my Brainstorm. Now, looking at this, you might... Oops, Spell Snare, and still not casting my Brainstorm. Looking at this, you might be like, oh yeah, obviously you have no reason to cast Brainstorm. But when you're in the game, and you have a blue mana, and a fetch land, and some cards in hand, and a Brainstorm, almost always people just cast the Brainstorm. And it's really important to get out of that habit. I don't know what I need yet, what lands I'm looking for. Yeah, we're kind of joking around. As I said, we're pretty good friends. But the... What was I saying? Oh, yeah. People just kind of want to cast their Brainstorms. It's tempting to just be able to look at 3 cards. I mean, it's like the mystery box, They could be anything. But really, you have to know exactly what you need and what you don't need. I don't have 2 cards that I'm willing to put back on top of my deck and shuffle away. And until I do, or until I need a specific card, I'm not going to cast my Brainstorm. I have no reason to. I've drawn some blue cards since then, but for a while, Brainstorm was my only blue card. And if I just cast it to look for some lands or some action, then if I didn't hit a blue card and he played an important spell, I wouldn't have anything to pitch to my Force of Will. That's important. So I Pyroblast his Jace and still don't Brainstorm. And here I think is when I cast my Brainstorm. The Stoneforge Mystic lets me know what I actually need, which I can get, you know, a Spell Snare or something to deal with the equipment, Wasteland for Academy of Ruins. Like there's the Stoneforge Mystic lets me know what game plan I need to be on, and now I can cast my Brainstorm. It's also because I don't know whether I should throw away my Vendilion or my Jace to my Force of Will yet, and the 3 cards from Brainstorm will let me know that, or I'll hit another Brainstorm or something to pitch the Force of Will. But yeah, you can see I just waited for like 6 turns where a lot of people would have just cast their Brainstorms for no real reason. We're going to look at another example of that real fast. Oop. Or we can look at my face some more. No, this is another feature match. I'm playing No Bant in where? Dallas Fort Worth. Okay. All these tournaments kind of run together, so I remember the matches themselves, but not, you know, what took place where. But yeah, we both mulligan to 6. Zach was on the play. He thought seizes me, sees 3 lands, Brainstorm, Swords to Plowshares, Force of Will, correctly takes the Brainstorm. I can fast forward a little here. I draw 2nd Swords to Plowshares. Play a fetch land first so I don't get wastelanded. He hymns me and he hits a land and one of the 2 Swords to Plowshares. And then I draw Brainstorm. Now here is yet another example of, ooh, I don't have a lot, ooh, what's gonna be? It's like, oh, I don't have a lot of action, and I have a blue mana that's going to waste, and a fetch land. If I don't have anything to do, you know, Brainstorm gives me something to do, but really, there's just no reason to cast the Brainstorm. What happens if I draw a good mix of lands and spells? I don't want to shuffle anything away, at which point I've wasted my Brainstorm. Especially against a deck like Rock or Bug, I don't really know which he is right now, that has the targeted discard, or discard in general, Brainstorm is way better in your hand than it is, you know, cast. Because you can use it to protect your key spells from the discard. So yeah, it's just another example of being patient with your Brainstorms. Yet again, we're going to sit here for a couple minutes and watch me not cast Brainstorm, because that's the way you do it. Let Tarmogoyf resolve. I don't even bother plowing it now, because there are more threatening creatures in his deck, and the fetch land might be more important to me in play. Like if I fetch a white source here, then he could waste it. So here, I think for a second about casting the Brainstorm, just because it's good to consider your options, but I think better of it and pass the turn. By the way, I drew a natural order for the turn. So now I kind of have a game plan. This is game one, so it's unlikely that he has an answer to Progenitus. And even if he does, I have Force of Will. So if I can find another blue card, then that's not going to do it. But as you're going to see, he's going to play a Knight of the Reliquary here. And I'm just going to let it resolve. A lot of people will brainstorm in response to the Knight, looking for a blue card to pitch to the Force of Will. To counter the Knight so they can plow the Goyf, and then their opponent won't have any creatures. Really, that doesn't matter. As long as they don't have enough to kill you through a Progenitus, it shouldn't really matter. In fact, I'm kind of down cards and planning, depending on my brainstorm obviously, to actually put that Force Will back and shuffle it away, since I don't want to 2-for-1 myself yet again. But yeah, so I end up letting the Knight resolve and then brainstorming on end step. Now the reason it's important to do it end step rather than in response to the Knight, like you might think that I'm free rolling, like there might be a combination of 3 cards that would make it so that it would be correct to Force of Will the Knight. But even if that were true, I wouldn't want to brainstorm there because he could sacrifice this and play another discard spell. There's really just no reason to risk it. And I can't even brainstorm a response to the Knight and then leave my natural order on top to protect it from this, and then untap a natural order, because I need to find a Dryad Arbor to do that, and I would have to crack a fetchland to do that and shuffle away my natural order. So it's important that I wait until end step here to cast that brainstorm. So yeah, basic stuff. Now that we've done a whole 5 minutes or so of watching me not cast brainstorm, I want to go into some examples of some people who did cast brainstorm, which in case you aren't paying attention is usually the wrong play to cast your brainstorms. This is a pretty high level match, as you can see. The Michael Flores on your left and Star City Grinder Lewis Laskin on your right. I'm not going to maximize it. This is from Edison, I think. Yeah, this is Edison. And I did some homework. And this is the hand that Lewis Laskin kept on the draw. Now, the thing about this hand, well, the thing about that hand is that it's bad. Okay, that's not a keepable hand. A lot of people will look at this hand, see potential in it. They'll I mean, it's just like standard, you know. People on standard, the Cobblade, right? Okay, I know it got banned and everything, and I'll mention that in a second. But the Cobblade Mirror, one of the biggest mistakes that people would make is casting their preordains for no reason. And it's the same principle as Brainstorms, right? But the second biggest mistakes that people would make is that with hands with preordain aren't auto keeps. Okay? Preordain is a card filterer, not a hand magician. Right? It doesn't automatically make whatever garbage you kept playable. The same applies for Brainstorm. Just because there's a brainstorm in this hand does not mean the rest of it is playable. This is, yeah, it's not a keepable hand. But say you want to risk it for whatever reason, you think it's a bad matchup, you want to go home early, you hate Magic the Gathering, whatever it is, you decide to keep it, that's fine. But then Lewis casts his Brainstorm on the end step. Lou, buddy, come on, man. No, you're better than that. You're better than this. Now, let's go back to his hand. Now, he was on the draw, so he drew a Jace the Mind Sculptor for the turn. Played his Tundra, passed, cast Brainstorm. What about this hand stands out to you? Give you a second to look it over. Now to me, what stands out immediately about this hand, besides that it's garbage, is that it has no 2-drop. Right? Green Sun Zenith for Noble Hierarch instead of Dryad Arbor, when you have another Green Sun Zenith anyway, that doesn't matter. Getting a Noble Hierarch versus a Dryad Arbor is not a big enough difference to count it as a 2-drop. When you Green Sun Zenith, you want either a beater or a mana guy. Now, or a utility guy, I should mention that. Now, why is having no 2-drop significant? Well, the reason you brainstorm on end step rather than waiting is if you need that mana on your turn. If you don't have a 2-drop, there's no way that you need this mana on your turn. There's just no way. So, if Lewis waits, then he loses nothing. Right? He's not going to use that mana anyway. Getting a Noble Hierarch versus Dryad Arbor is not significant. What is significant is the fact that he needs another land, and in 3 cards with 20 land, it's about 76%, and with 4 cards, it's about 86%. That's a huge deal. A 10% difference just by waiting. And it's a free roll, because the mana just doesn't matter. Now, I should also mention that when you brainstorm on end step, you untap and draw one of those cards. The whole point of brainstorming is to put back 2 bad cards. It's a card filterer. So what Lewis did was, instead of looking at 4 cards and getting rid of 2 bad ones, he looked at 3 cards and only got to put back 1 bad one. All for a small chance that he can get a Noble Hierarch instead of a Dryad Arbor. Doesn't seem worth it. Little later, we're going to see Flores do what I like to call the Desperation Brainstorm. Now, he mulliganed to 3 cards this game? 3? 4? He mulliganed a lot, alright? He mulliganed quite a bit this game, and got his 1 land wastelanded. Right now, his hand is the Brainstorm in question, a Force of Will, and can't believe I'm blanking on that card name. It's a colorless land, and you can sacrifice a cleric and gain life. Nomad Citadel, and yeah, that card. Um, but oh, and also significant, he cracks a fetch land to cast this Brainstorm. If that's just the normal land, like if that's a duel, then for his Brainstorm to be maximized, he needs to draw a fetch land. Since it's a fetch land, all he needs to draw is any colored land, whether it's a fetch land or a duel. Now, the reason I call it a Desperation Brainstorm is because he mulliganed to Oblivion and has completely crushed this game. Like, he's on a 1%er. But that doesn't excuse playing suboptimally. When you're put in a bad spot, you need to find your way out. You need to fight your way out. But just kind of giving up and burning your Brainstorms and hoping that by some miracle you get some unbelievable chain of draws, like, to get that unbelievable chain of draws, you're better off brainstorming properly, and that's not what he's doing. So yeah, I mean that's a good example of two fairly high level players just messing up very basic brainstorm stuff. And now I want to the example I want to close on, and yeah, that's all I wanted to do. I mean, there's only one example left. I know following the article, a lot of people wanted some like super high level stuff, like, oh, what about in combo decks? I mean, the truth is, in combo decks, it's not as different as you think. People want to play their combo decks aggressively, so they want to play their Brainstorms aggressively. They want to just draw 3 cards and hope their opponent dies. But, my face is itchy today. But in all honesty, it's the same as a mid-range deck or a control deck. You need to be patient. You're better off waiting and optimizing your Brainstorm, creating a game plan, rather than just, Brainstorm, draw 3 cards, see what happens. You know, it's not really the best way to play it. But yeah. I mean, the high level stuff, a lot of like unique applications for Brainstorm I talk about in the article, and I recommend you go read that. But this video is just to show real life examples of what it means to brainstorm properly and what it means to mess up brainstorms. This last example is of the one and only Edgar Flores. He is one of the worst brainstormers I've ever seen, and it's consistent. Like, it's consistently awful. And I mean, I've tried to help him. Jerry's tried to help him. Drew's tried to help him, and he just keeps brainstorming. I say that for Edgar, preordains are demonic. Let me start that over. Preordains are demonic tutors, and brainstorms are reach through mists in Edgar's hands. Alright, so here's the start of the game. I have Edgar's opening hand pulled up here. Ta-da! This is Edgar's opener. So he Force of Wills a lackey. Pitching the other Force of Will. Okay, so these two are gone. Draws another fetch land for the turn, then ponders. Now, I'm not going to talk about the ponder. The ponder's probably right. I'm not going to talk about the land he played, which is probably wrong. But I'm not analyzing that stuff, right? I'm just looking at, I'm just waiting for that brainstorm. Now, here's his ponder. This is his ponder with my crudely drawn MS Paint arrow. This is his hand. This is his board. This is the stack. And this is the top of his deck. Now, I wasn't going to mention the fact that I'm pretty sure he played the wrong land. It's not like he needs fetch lands, because he's got 3 of them, which is 1 to get a black source, 1 to shuffle after the ponder, 1 to shuffle after the brainstorm. So exactly enough fetch lands, so that this him to Torok awkwardness doesn't happen. But this is not an episode about playing the right land on turn 1. It's an episode on Brainstorm. So, this is his ponder. He's going to keep these 2 spells on top in some order, and then the Tropical Island third. Keep that in mind as we go back to the game. So he draws the Go for the Throat. Draws the Hymn to Torok, plays a land and passes. His opponent cycles an Incinerator. Only reason he would do that is looking for a 3rd land. Why are you brainstorming there? Let's go back to that ponder. Now he drew the Go for the Throat off the ponder. Drew the Hymn to Torok for turn. So he's going to brainstorm back into his Tropical Island. When he has plenty of fetch lands and no need for this extra land. Just going to brainstorm. Got a blue mana. Got a fetch land in play. Got some cards. Want some more cards? You guys brainstorm. What? This is not a wise brainstorm. And I'm actually just gonna stop the video there. Doesn't matter what happens next. Now, a big thing to recognize there is that the only reason you brainstorm on their turn is if you need that mana. If you're going to need that mana on your next turn, it's the only time you should ever brainstorm on their turn. Well, I mean, unless you need a magic card, you know. If you're going to, like, die to an ad nauseum or something, you should probably dig for the Force of Will. But, in general, like, if you're just casting it for value, if you just untap and draw, you see an extra card. That means you have an extra card in hand, so you have more options of what to put back and shuffle away, and you dig 4 deep instead of 3 deep to find whatever you're looking for. Now, if you look at this game, he's obviously not going to need that mana. In fact, if you just know what bug decks look like, you know they don't have 3-drops. Or, he's actually playing Team America, but it doesn't matter. They don't have 3-drops. I mean, some bug decks have deeds, but you're against the Mock War Marshal. You can wait a turn for your deed. Yeah, there's just no reason to cast Brainstorm there. If he shuffles away the Tropical Island, goes to his turn, draws an extra card, then brainstorms, Then he gets a magic card instead of a tropical island, and digs an extra card deep, so it's like he's digging 2 cards deeper because that dead tropical island. And he has a fetch land anyway, like he has plenty of extra fetch lands. So it's not like wasting it to get rid of the trop is a big deal. And then his deck that is all 2-drops go for the throat. Hymn to Torok, Tombstalk, or Dark Confidant / Tombstalker, Tarmogoyf. Deck that is all 2-drops. You have 2 mana. What more do you need? Afraid the Goblin deck's gonna daze you? There's no reason to cast it here. None. But that's Edgar. Yeah, so that just about wraps up episode 2 of AJTV. I figure I should probably say something on the bannings, which, I mean, a lot of people have been asking me what I think about it, and a couple of them have even been like, "Oh man, what are you gonna do now?" As if like I wasn't able to win before Stoneforge Mystic and Jace the Mind Sculptor, and now won't be able to win. I mean, sets rotate every 3 months, and you have to adapt and relearn and react every rotation. It's 2 magic cards aren't gonna make the good players lose and the bad players win. Like, yes, it was a good deck, and yes, I was good with it, and like put up good results, and it would have been nice to have been able to put up a couple more good results before it rotated out. But no matter what the cards are, the best players are going to rise to the top. It's just all about adjusting. It's another adjustment that I need to make. It's really not that big a deal. That should be it. We did it. Despite all of technology conspiring against us, we have finally done it. Episode 2 is complete. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to ask you all to go to starcitygames.com. Go to the forums of this article. Let me know what you think. Yeah, let me know if I should keep doing these. I have a couple unique ideas for the next couple, rather than just straight up like this. You know, I want to experiment with a little different formatting for a couple, and then I'll come back and I'll listen to all the feedback, and we'll go from there. So yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.